And we are live on College Band Radio, all college band, all the time. Welcome back, everyone. This is episode 9 of College Band Radio, our first season with college marching. This is just insane that we're at 9 already. Wow. How do you guys feel about that? We have everyone here except for Hannah. Hannah will be on later in this episode. But wow, 9 episodes. How's everyone doing this week? How is everyone's Thanksgiving / Black Friday / it's currently Monday, so as we're recording, so Cyber Monday. How's everyone doing?
You know, it's been a pretty good week since the last recording. You know what? Thanksgiving was nice. I ate a lot of turkey. Unfortunately, there were not enough people since people weren't coming over for Thanksgiving this year. There was not enough people to warrant a brisket between myself and my parents because my sister is a vegetarian, so she would not be eating the brisket. So if you remember from last week, I'm very disappointed about that. But yeah, other than the, little disappointment from the lack of brisket, it was a pretty good weekend.
Yeah, I feel like it's at the point in the quarter for school where I, don't know what day of the week it is ever.
Wait, is UW on quarters?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Do you just call it UW? You can't call it UW. Wrong? Yeah, you have to say UW.
UW.
You have to say UW.
No, it's just UW.
Jason, you're a phony. It's UW.
It's like,
just,
Jason,
the more you know.
It's like B-dubs.
Listen, I'm not from that area of the country.
We're not from that area either, yet we still call it UW. What's
yeah,
your
that's
point?
okay.
Listen, I'm gonna keep calling it UW.
Don't. Why are you doing that?
UW.
Jason
wait,
just
where
took
is it? Is it in Seattle?
Yes, UW Seattle.
UW
and Bothell
Seattle.
and Tacoma. But
you know why?
Seattle.
It's because whenever I think of UW, I think of UW Madison, so I just say UW.
Yeah, they're UW, but we're UW.
This is confusing.
So Vandy made news, other than the fact that they're just really bad at football, but they had kind of problems with their kicking, just like their kicking collective. Basically, a bunch of guys were either got COVID or were in close contact with people that had COVID and had to be put on the COVID list. Couldn't play in the game, so Vandy needed a kicker. They went to Sarah Fuller, who is was a senior starting goalkeeper for the women's soccer team. Who, congrats to them, who had just won the SEC championship. I believe it was the SEC tournament championship. So congrats to Vandy for that. So Sarah Fuller became the first woman to play in a Power 5 conference game. Did come out there, unfortunately, only once because Vandy didn't get past the 32-yard line on the other side of the field, and the one time that they did, they had a 4th and 4 situation and apparently did not have any faith in Sarah Fuller, so decided to go for it on 4th and 4 when they were losing 28-0. Did not end up well, so much to the point that their head coach got fired. So clearly things aren't going well at Vandy, but it was great to see Sarah out there. She had the Play Like a Girl sticker on the back of her helmet. It was great.
How long would that kick have been if they decided to kick it?
It was like a 50-yarder, 49-50-yarder, somewhere around there.
So for
doable.
somebody's first career kick, that's a pretty long one.
That would have been sick, though.
Even for somebody who just won a soccer championship, that's a long kick.
That's a long kick for anybody.
Yeah.
Your team has not made it into field goal range all game. You are finally somewhat in field goal range. You might as well try it.
I guess you're right. You know what? I'm no football coach, so my opinion here doesn't really matter.
Neither is theirs.
Neither is their coach.
You're right. One thing that's a very interesting thing about this game is there will never be a time when that many people tune in to watch a Vanderbilt Mizzou game ever again in history.
Hey.
I'm not that Mizzou is that bad. You still have a winning record.
That's a great point.
But Vanderbilt Mizzou is it's not a game that I would ever tune in for, except for in this one specific case. But then you're like, oh, this is going to be a historic event. It's going to be the first woman to play in a Power 5 game. That's dope. I want to watch history being made. So you tune in. That's going to be the kind of the high point, I think, of Vanderbilt's media ever.
Football.
Probably. At least for a while. It's going to take some rebuilding over there.
Wait, so also I have a question. So how did she get there? Did they just send out a call to the soccer team? Does anyone want to kick some field goals? and she was just like the first one to be like, I will.
Earlier that week, they were like, hey, like, we might not have a kicker. Like, what are we going to do? And I believe they reached out to the soccer team earlier. And then, like, I think by, like, Wednesday or something, it became official that they were going to need her. And then I think that's when it became, like, official news that she was going to come. And then on Thursday, they were like, yeah, like, she's traveling with the team. And she'll be traveling with us overnight and all that stuff.
A lot of people were criticizing her, and they were being like, oh, it was just a really bad kickoff. But, like, they clearly didn't want her to just boom it down the field and have to deal with a returner. Because, like, just putting somebody out there never played a football game before.
Never had that kind of contact in a sport.
That's
and also
really
the
dangerous.
The shape of the ball is very different. So, like, having to kick them, you know? And so it's something she had to learn overnight.
I think even just the kicking of the ball, though, wouldn't be that big of a challenge. I think if she wanted to do, quote, like a, quote, good kick, you know, I think she very easily could have. I think it's more that that's what the coach said, let's do this for both your safety, just not having the experience playing football, not having the experience knowing how to tackle or getting tackled, like, properly. And then also, because, you know, at that point, because she doesn't have that football experience, it's basically on a kick return, it would be 10 on 11. So just to kind of even the playing field, you do a little pooch kick like that, and it's not going to get run back, most likely, which kind of just, sure, it gives them better field position, but it just ends the play when they get it and just go down with it. And then, so I think a lot of the comments on social media after the game about, like, oh, well, she's so bad. I mean, first of all, people that are saying that are, you know, we know the crowd that's out there, but I think she's a phenomenal kicker. If she wasn't a senior, I'd love to see her back next year. Senior year, who knows if the NCAA COVID rules will let her stick around, and if she's going to be able to beat out the people who have been kicking for years, kicking a football for years. We'll see. I'd love to see her in a few more games, though. I'd like to see her actually be able to attempt a field goal.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, like, going back to the whole, like, social media comments and stuff and people on Twitter, like, no, I wasn't surprised to see those. But
not
also, I kind of think about, like, if they had let her kick the field goal and she missed it, it might have made it that much worse.
Oh, that would have been, it would have been awful if
I know,
the social media
I know.
would have been terrible.
So I don't know if there were more reasons for that than they let on, but of course it was upsetting to see that. So
yeah, from like my perspective, so those who don't know, I was actually at the game. It was kind of weird. It was actually the first time that I wasn't in the band at a game, and it was actually the first football game I've ever watched without, like, being involved in something. Because, like, in high school I was in band and cheer, then college I've been in cheer, so it was definitely, like, an interesting game to be my first one. But from, like, my position in the stands, I was actually right behind her. You know, not like very many feet, just right on the other side of the bleachers. And she seemed, like, really good, like, the whole game. We saw her warming up, and it was so sweet. Like, everyone in the crowd around me, they were cheering her on. And I was right in the middle of the Mizzou student section. But, I mean, a lot of people were drunk, but they were, like, screaming their heads off for her, and they were cheering her on. And then at the end of halftime, whenever she went out there to kick, it was like everyone on the Mizzou side, like, got up and started clapping for her and was just like, let's go, Sarah, like, you got this. And so that was really nice to see. Unfortunately, it wasn't all like that on social media, but at least, like, from within the stadium, everyone seemed super supportive. And like, what our head football coach told her was really sweet. He was like, you know, I've got 4 girls at home, and they're so excited to see you today. And it was really nice seeing, like, our players going up to her after the game and, like, trying to make that connection and, like, thanking her for being there.
Yeah, no, it was a really, really great moment, and I'm glad that Vanderbilt did it, and I hope that she stays the kicker for the rest of the year, because Vanderbilt literally has nothing to lose. Like, they're not good.
They're 0-8, so they really don't.
Obviously, the college basketball season just started up, and literally from the jump, things are already crazy because 3 top 10 teams were upset in the last week. What did you guys see from your teams this weekend? How did you feel about what went on? How nice is it to have college basketball back? Like, how are we feeling about the entire thing just after what we've seen so far in the last week?
It was weird watching Purdue play in I don't think it was a high school gym. I think it was just a small university, but it looked like a high school gym, and it was really weird watching like that. The atmosphere was it was a weird vibe I was getting, but it was still nice to watch them play again, especially since we have a bunch of new faces on our team.
I didn't get to watch any basketball this weekend, including my own team, because I don't know, they weren't going to televise it. That's a whole nother thing about Pac-12 networks and stuff. But I listened to it on the radio. I wasn't really impressed. We got walloped by Baylor, so yeah, that was rough. But I just had to listen to it and kind of put two and two together and just imagine.
For me, I'm really excited basketball's back. All of our games this past weekend got canceled, but I went to some in the middle of the week. The men and women looked good. They both scored over 90 points and won. It is kind of weird being in a kind of empty stadium and definitely not being in the band. Luckily, my tickets were where the band normally sits, so that kind of felt like normal to me. But the men's team seemed good. I was telling, all the other hosts the other week, I think we're one of the tallest teams, one of the oldest teams. And so if we're not good, that's going to be a little concerning whenever we have to regrow next year. For the women, they seem really good. Whenever I was looking, we only have a couple of returners. It's mainly all new faces. And so I think that's going to be interesting to put together. Whenever I went to the game on Friday night, granted, it was the day after Thanksgiving, but I was one of the only 9 people in the student section. So that was really weird to have half the stadium literally empty. But I'm excited for them. They just announced, actually, that our next 3 games for women's are canceled because of COVID. And then for men, they have a game against Oregon coming up, but their game just got canceled too because of COVID. So I guess we'll see how many games we'll play.
Yeah. And over in Piscataway, it's been a fun time. The Scarlet Knights are 3-0 start, so can't complain about that. The one thing that is a little concerning though is in the first game, I think it was in the first 10 minutes of the first game of the season, our team captain Gio Baker went down with an ankle injury. Later, they just determined that it was a sprain. And so with him being out indefinitely from that, plus one of our other kind of star players from last year who was already going to be out this season medically, I think with a back injury, I was very worried, especially going into our second and third games. But I was really glad to see, although it was a little sloppy, that the team, they came together, and even with a bunch of young guys kind of taking over, they still were able to produce. So I'm really excited to see where this team goes, and it's gonna be a fun show.
So in terms of Maryland, at least, men's team started out 3-0, which was great, and for the women's team, disappointed in the weekend because they lost to Missouri State, who is 24, but kind of expected them to not have the kind of success that I thought they were going to have, mainly because of the fact that they lost 4 of their starters from last year. So we finished the weekend 2-1, which was good. We scored 116 points or something crazy like that on Arkansas, which was really good to see. So I'm excited for what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the year, but I'm excited for them in that. So again, we're going to be on the lookout for college basketball and what goes on for the rest of the year. Last thing, first college football playoff rankings came out last week. Some interesting people in some interesting places. I know BYU at 14 was quite a surprise to a lot of people. Are we expecting any movement anywhere one way or another?
I think Ohio State will move down. Ohio State will move down just a little bit. I don't know if BYU is going to move. They'll probably go up a little bit just because, honestly, I think this whole year with, the college football playoff rankings and stuff is just, either a culmination of what was last year, their program from last year, or, their name. It's all about names and stuff, in my opinion. But, yeah, so I don't know. They got a lot of flack online for putting BYU at 14, so BYU will probably move up just, a little bit. I think they should. I don't think they should, but that's just me.
Does anyone have like a way too early prediction of who's gonna win it all?
I really want Cincy to get in. That would be my team. I want Cincy to get in because a team that's outside the Power Five hasn't been in the college football playoffs since it started.
I think it's a good point to mention that Alabama has twice as many wins as Ohio State because Ohio State's only played 4 games. Alabama's played 8. Notre Dame's played 9. Clemson's played 9, but they lost 1. So I think that will be interesting going into the playoff. You know, like, will the experience hurt them or, like, will it help them? I think it's interesting. I think it's also interesting that Cincinnati's at 7th with an 8-0 record, but Texas A&M and Florida they're 6-1 and 7-1. So
because Cincinnati's in a group of 5. That's the reason why Cincinnati plays in not a Power 5 conference.
But I just think the team with on a winning streak of 8 should be ranked over the team, for the winning streak of 4.
See, but like that's like the argument because that is like the argument where you could say that like strength of schedule versus just pure record. Because I mean, if you take a high school team that hasn't lost a game in like 3 years, which happens occasionally, and you put that against like
Clemson,
and you put that against you put that against Rutgers, like there's like at least a chance that they're gonna lose just because college players are built stronger than high school players. And there's a
Bigger.
reason that
it's like the debate about the best college team playing the worst NFL team.
It's the same thing. Like you're
Bama playing
you're
the
comparing
Jets.
things that just aren't at the same level.
All right, so we will see what happens. There's a couple more weeks left before things kind of change and the final votes come out and final rankings come out, conference championship games happen, all that crazy stuff. So we'll see what happens with that. That basically leads us into our main discussion for this episode, which is talking about a great thing that's going on, partnership with college marching, the Intercollegiate Marching Band, which is essentially going to perform the halftime show at the national championship game or the college football playoff national championship game in January. So we're going to talk to a couple people from that, and then we have some representation of the IMB on our podcast. So we're going to talk to Hannah and Annabelle, who are both going to be involved in it later in the episode. So stay tuned for all of that.
Welcome, everyone. We're now in our interview segment. Here today we have Barry Hauser, Mark Speed, and Michael Barash. They're here to talk about the Intercollegiate Marching Band. Barry, do you want to start us off? We're just going to go around and introduce ourselves and what your part is in this program.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. What is my part? I don't know. No, I think originally, some folks came to us. Michael, Christine from Halftime Magazine, and Jeremy from Style Plus contacted Mark and myself. And so we kind of had a collective meeting between all of us, and there were a variety of ideas that were kind of shared initially. And through many conversations between, the 5 of us, we basically came to this great end product. We think it's great. Something that's really bringing everybody together to bring forth some unity and to show that unity across the country from, college marching band programs. I think we're pretty close to about 200 programs participating.
Hi, I'm Mark Speed. I'm Director of Bands at Clemson University and President of the College Band Directors National Association. And I guess, Barry and I are kind of sharing in some of the logistics and pre-planning. I think most of the work that Barry and I did is pretty much over, which was organizing and contacting all the directors and getting people, getting the directors to nominate their students, organizing the music, all that kind of stuff. And now that the deadline has passed, the work is being done by our virtual ensemble, which is, doing the lion's share of the work on this project right now.
Absolutely, they are. I'm Michael Barash. I'm the co-founder of collegemarching.com, and I was part of the founding group for this idea. So as Barry said, Jeremy Williams and Christine Cashman came to me and said, hey, we would love to, kind of put our brains together as 3 different entities in the college band world and marching band space, to try and see like what is possible in this crazy situation that we're all in, right? So many bands have been sidelined, they're not performing at all. Like Barry's band, for example, was, virtual, I think, this whole semester. And, just trying to find time to even get, 20 students together was a challenge, right? Mark's band has been performing at games a little bit more than others, but it's, super inconsistent across the country. And, what do we do to celebrate the finale of a season when nobody's going to be going on bowl trips really, or, having those championship games? And there's such a difference what we see in a normal season. And so we were like, what if we did something kind of fun to bring everyone together and kind of cap off this crazy year with a way to celebrate and give students a chance to perform, even if they're not able to, at football games. And that's how this all kind of came about. And here we are now, like Barry said, almost 200 bands, I think over 1,500 students are participating in this. We have some of the biggest college band companies in the country who are a part of this, working on it. It's been a really awesome way to bring the whole space together. There's no competition here. There's no rivalry. There's nothing. It's just unity, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. I know as a participant, it's been such a cool opportunity as someone who comes from a smaller school. We're an FCS school, so getting to kind of work with and virtually perform with people who go to much bigger schools than me, it's been such a cool opportunity to get to meet people. So you kind of mentioned how many different programs are being represented in this. Are there a lot of bands from all over the board in terms of size, or is a lot of one size or a different size? Could any of you shed some light on that?
Yeah, I think it's all across the board. We've got a lot of the, most visible bands in the country, the ones that are usually doing the bowl games, the Power Five type bands. But we've got a huge number of bands like yours, Hannah, that don't necessarily get the big national spotlight all the time. And we've got some HBCU bands. And so it's really going to be, I can't wait to see the final product because, every person in the video, every program will have equal footing. As Barry mentioned, it's not a competition, or I think Michael may have mentioned that, we're just trying to come together and showcase this great activity that we're all involved with, and give folks who haven't had a normal season or anything close to a normal season an opportunity to perform on a national stage. I'm hoping that this video will go viral.
Yeah, I know one of the things that's definitely going to help with that is obviously the song choice, which is End of Time by Beyonce, which is super fun to play. So how did you guys decide what song you were going to do? Because obviously there's so many great songs like that out there.
Yeah, that was actually me and Scott Borma kind of brainstorming, right away as soon as we settled in on the idea of this virtual performance. I wanted to ask Scott Borma to arrange whatever tune we came up with. In my mind, he's the greatest marching band arranger that's ever been. So he and I went back and forth. We were looking at a lot of different things, but really settled in on Beyonce as sort of a universal pop star that everybody loves Beyonce. There's she's
True.
She's the queen. She's everybody's into her music, and we thought that would be a great choice. And this particular tune, if you listen to her original version, has sort of this marching band feel already. It's got a drum line and it's got a horn section. So it kind of, as Scott and I were talking about it, we definitely came to this tune and thought it would be a good one to do.
It was funny, Hannah, in our discussions as a group, trying to figure out what we were going to choose, because you have a lot of different personalities in the group in the first place, and people from different walks of life. And I think we had a long discussion about, do we do something like patriotic? Do we do something that's like hip and cool? What do we do? You have so many different programs, so many backgrounds, so many styles. Like, what's going to get everyone excited? And you can't go wrong with Beyonce. Like, it
Absolutely
doesn't matter
cannot.
who you are. Everyone gets up for Beyonce. And so it was really fun when we all kind of settled on, okay, we're going to go with Beyonce. Like, what can we do? Mark tried really hard to try and get Beyonce herself to be part of this. I don't think we're going to make that happen.
Just
Huh?
hold tight. We are still making some progress, and that's where we're going to leave it.
Whoa!
We are making
would
some
it help
progress.
Oh,
if
Big
all
news
of us
dropping
tweeted
in the
at her?
We haven't even had a
podcast.
chance to talk about this yet, but yes, there's some
Ah,
things in the door has not been closed. That's all we'll say.
Oh my
Plenty
goodness
of ball left
gracious.
to be
Uh-oh.
played.
yeah.
We'll get all 1,500 members to tweet at her every day.
Yes, every single day. I will tweet at Beyonce if that's what it takes.
There you go. There you go. That's the way it's going to happen, probably.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Definitely. So I know like from the other side of things, from like the social media perspective, we're kind of in this for the long haul. So where do you see, I know like the big date, I believe is January 11th, like the big football playoff championship. Where do you see this going after that championship? Is this just a one season COVID type of thing, or do you see this, continuing past that?
I think that's really where, our focus, let's be honest, our focus has been on this situation, right? Making sure that we have opportunities that students across the country are going to have some type of opportunity to play in some capacity. So that's been the primary focus. There's been little conversations, and little hints at things, what does this become after that? And I think that's where, we kind of have to leave that open at this point. Let's see how this flies first, right? Let's see the momentum that hopefully we can all generate by this excitement and bringing so many programs together. Let's truly hope that we're not doing this because of COVID in 2021. I think that's where we all are in terms of our mindset. But I think this does, like so many things that we've experienced from COVID, either shutting programs down or, in some capacity, challenging us in different ways. We've found ways to reimagine what we do. And I think this is one of those opportunities that who knows? And I think part of it, if we start speculating now, we don't want people to hold on to, oh, they said they're going to do this. I think part of this, we just need to keep an open mind about it, because I think there are some potential opportunities of doing some things in the future that we can continue to show that unity across the country of all of our programs, regardless of conference, regardless of size of school, and so forth. That could be a really powerful message for college marching bands all over.
It's a pretty neat exercise, right? I mean, everyone who's part of this is volunteering, right? Like no one's getting paid, none of that kind of stuff. And so you brought together a bunch of, people who just love to march and have marched, love to be part of it in different ways. And what the end product is going to be this really a celebration of the thing that we all love, right? And so, if that catapults us into 2021 to maybe come up with some other really fun, unifying ideas, I mean, I think everyone's going to be on board with that. It might not be the same thing that we're doing right now, but hopefully this is just the beginning of the uniting of everyone, and I think that this is a great way that we've been able to do it. Unfortunately, a situation like COVID has kind of forced us into it, right? But hopefully this is kind of like the silver lining where this becomes something that is much bigger than we ever imagined, and we can think about in different ways in the future.
Hey, it's that idea of the band always wins. Like we're all one team here together. So yeah, I know that one other thing is kind of along those same lines of the future, but like what are some cool things kind of our listeners, as they're learning more about this process, if they're not already involved, what are some kind of cool things they can expect from this?
Well, there's it's going to be a challenge for the video editors to get everybody on the screen in 2 minutes. The song is about 2 minutes long. So you've got some drumline stuff. It opens with a 4-bar drumline intro. There's an 8-bar drumline feature in the middle. You've got all the wind parts. You've got color guard. You've got flags, rifles, majorettes, pom-poms, dancers, twirlers, feature twirlers. So it's going to be a lot of stuff on the screen, and some really great, wind parts that Scott wrote, really fun to play and are going to sound awesome. So it's going to be 2 minutes of intense, just all kinds of stuff happening. Going to be really cool.
I think one of the things that I'm really excited about is the design of the actual performance. So GPG Music and our virtual ensembles really are our top partner in this. and is doing a boatload of the work, for us to make this all happen. Their video design team is, starting, I think, tomorrow, to really get to work on this. And they have, a good 6 weeks to create a visual experience that is going to be really, really neat for the audience. So it's not just going to be, like a Zoom call where you're just going to have 1,500 little boxes on it, right? I mean, these boxes are going to be moving. They're going to be popping in and out. You're going to see different elements of band life through this video in a really cool way. But I think the thing that I'm looking forward to the most, and I know Mark and Barry probably agree with me, is just seeing everyone in all the different bands together. Like all the students in their uniforms, no matter style, no matter conference, no matter division, no matter band size, like be able to see Northern Iowa next to Jackson State, next to Ohio State, like in one shot, is going to be so cool.
I'm definitely excited because I'm in it, but I'm also, as a media production major, I'm just excited to see how it all turns out. Like I've helped with some of the virtual ensemble videos before, and like hearing there's like 1,500 videos, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not like, I'm just submitting and I can just enjoy the finished product and their hard work after it's done.
I think, just to add on to that as well, we have used our virtual ensemble for some other things just here at Illinois. And, there, like you said, Hannah, there are lots of people that are, either dipping into this or diving full force into this type of production. And we've seen all kinds of different virtual performances, but I don't think we're going to see anything like this. And, as Michael was saying, the design team getting together, I've just been so impressed with the work that they've done for us. So, the workload is going to be significantly different. We did a piece with our alumni band of about 200 people. And so, you're going from 200 to 1,500. It's like, are they going to be able to create that same magic? And I think just with the communication we've had with them with this process, there's some really great minds that are going to design something that it's going to be really fantastic for us all to see in, like Mark said, 2 minutes. 2 minutes, it's just going to be jam-packed. I mean, I think the views on this video should go up just because you have to watch it yourself 5 to 10 times just to be able to see everything taking place. So it should be very cool.
Yeah, that's such a good point. As like an outside member from someone who isn't in the band, I'm so jealous of the music. I haven't got to listen to it yet, but I'm really excited to see like the finished product. Because kind of like Hannah, I kind of work on our video and social media stuff. So I was like, wow, that whenever I heard how many schools were going to be in it, I was like, wow, that's such a daunting task. But I think it's going to be so like rewarding. And then definitely like just meeting people from the other schools, even if it is over Zoom. It's so cool to like just meet other band people, because typically we'd be doing that like this week right now at championships or, in the future bowl games. And so I think this definitely gives like the students a good perspective on different schools and everyone that they can meet. But so unless Hannah had any other questions, our final question is, so like how can people support the Intercollegiate Marching Band? I know there's a fundraising team. I know Super Tuesday, Giving Tuesday was on this past week. Like how can people support this band to see it grow and really see it like flourish in January?
Well, they can definitely go and go to imb.fansraise.com. That is our giving page. Anybody who wants to support this amazing endeavor can go up there and be part of it. They can sponsor a band member. They can sponsor their own band if they want to. They could sponsor a section if they want to sponsor a section or a director. Another fun way is that for a $10 donation, you can actually have a virtual video of support go out on all the social media, college marching, and Intercollegiate Marching Band social media, and get to share your love and support for a member or a section or whatever. We're calling that airmail. Really excited about that. Looking forward to showing a lot of videos that people are sending in. So it's going to be an incredible experience, not just for the members, but for everyone who's a part of it. And so we would love to have even more people join on board, parents, alumni, fans of college band, and join us in this way, which would be tremendous. And I know that Mark and Barry have been working really hard with CBDNA to focus on, what could we do if we raise a good amount of money here, more so than like to cover our costs. What could that money go towards? And they've really come up with a great strategy thinking about diversity related initiatives within the Collegiate Band Directors National Association to support, our future members of our band community that could really need help.
Well, awesome. Well, first of all, thank you so much to all of you for being willing to join us this week and talk a little bit about the Intercollegiate Marching Band. We're so excited to keep sharing information about that as we get closer to the debut of the video. And for all our listeners, stay tuned because after this, we're going to get into some of our favorite memories of our away band trips.
All right, welcome back to the final segment of this episode 9 of our first season. So we have a few questions. I'm going to kind of be the moderator for it, but I'm going to ask you all a few questions about just some traditions, some things that are going on that you guys have done in band. I know the first thing that we talked about was shakos and hats, and preferred things and traditions that you guys do during games. If you win or if you lose, what you do.
I think shakos are so high school.
Wow, is Annabelle sitting here wearing our Shako?
Shame.
Shako. Jason opens up with that.
Oh, hot take.
I'll get started since the first comment was irrelevant. I think Shakos are the best. This is my old Shako. I recommend everyone look up Marching Mizzou's new Shako. We have different colored feathers. It's very cool. They're very cute, and this was my first time having a feather plume. In high school, I had like one of those shiny ones. I think something like what Jason has. But I really like the feathers because they're cute. And then like for game days, we have these cute hats. Aren't they so cute? And then after we win, I know a lot of schools, they turn them around. That's what we do.
You don't turn your actual Shako?
No, because in the stands, we don't wear our Shakos. So you only wear, I think like the rule of Shakos is you only wear Shakos on the field. And so I haven't got to wear my Shako at all this year since we've just been in the stands. So even if I'm sitting at home, I'll turn my hat around. And then like after game day, even if it's like an 11 o'clock game, I wear my hat all day, no matter what I'm doing. I mean, unless I'm like going out, but I'll wear my hat all day backwards, even if it looks bad.
That's pretty cool.
We do that.
We're actually not allowed to do ours backwards. Fun fact. So I wore a Shako in high school, and then I have a cowboy hat in college, obviously, as all y'all know at this point. I really love my cowboy hat just because my Shako was always like too big for me, so I always felt like it was gonna fall off my head as I was marching, and that's not a problem with cowboy hats. So like, I love that security that I'm like, yes, this will stay attached to my head.
I was just gonna say, I think from this group, including Craig, we have 2 people with Shakos, because I think the Mighty Sound of Maryland also uses Shakos. 2 people with Savannah. Do we just call them hats?
They're Shakos, I think.
I wouldn't call yours a Shako, but
what is it?
I don't know the name, but we just call ours hats. And then 2 people with other things. Hannah's got a cowboy hat, and then Craig's got like a helmet.
Yo, Craig's is the coolest in my opinion. It looks pretty dope.
We'll do a poll.
My cowboy hat is superior to everything.
Like what
okay,
we
so
have.
that's
would you call this a
exactly
Shako?
what I had in high school.
Yeah.
We just called them hats in
See,
high school.
that's exactly
Really?
what I would call it. I wouldn't call that a Shako. But also,
Yeah,
I don't know. My whole world has been flipped upside down right now. But I always called them
That's the exact
Shakos.
one I had in high school.
Do you see these like this is a big thing. See these like this? They have a chin strap. We don't
Those are
have
the
one
old
of those,
uniforms.
so a lot of the times our hats will just fly off our heads. I think
See,
we're
that's
like
my
one of the only
biggest
band
fear
that
with
does
my
it.
Shako,
That's not safe.
And that's why I really like my cowboy hat, because it has like a string that goes under our chin and a thing so you can tighten it as much as you want, and then you just tuck the string in the side of your uniform. But when we're in the stands, we also do cowboy hats, or we also do our baseball hats like Annabelle, but we're really strict on how we wear ours. Like you have to have it on in the stands. You can't wear it backwards. Like it has to always be front facing. And then the only time you can the only time you can take your hat off is once you're in your uniform, you're back in your uniform jacket, putting your cowboy hat on for halftime. Because we also take our jackets off in the stands once we're done with halftime.
Hannah, it would be interesting to see what would happen if if we ever brought our band to play at the Dome, because we're not allowed to have our hats on inside.
Whoa!
So it would be really we'd be like.
It's interesting.
Like...
Hannah, quick question. So you say you guys take your uniform jackets off in the stand. So do you have like bibs, like overalls underneath?
We have they're not quite bibs, like they come up kind of over our hips, and then they have like the suspender, like adjustable straps, but we have like our game day uniform under it is like a black PMB shirt, so we still look uniform in the stands. I think why we do it is because like since we're inside, it gets really, really hot after doing pregame. So then we take them off, cool down before we go out and do halftime, just because we get pretty nasty.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because like for Mizzou, you're never like allowed to be seen in like just your bibs and your overalls like at all.
Us too.
Yeah,
like, it's
same.
like you don't want to be seen in an incomplete uniform. It's
like
like
all
really
on or
bad.
all off.
It's really
the law.
bad. Yeah.
But no,
it's
we have the same rule about hats, unless we win. That's the only time, and then we all like do it at the same time.
Oh, and we also have to take hats off for the alma mater, because at the end of the game, that's kind of we close with the alma mater, and then you take your hat off, and then it's like you're done. So then you just kind of stack your hats or whatever, however you need to do it on your way back to the gym. So then people can like wear them backwards or whatever. We just can't do it when you're officially representing the band.
So whenever we sing the alma mater at the end of each rehearsal or like event. So we take them off whenever we sing, but we don't take them off whenever we play. Since we also play it during pregame.
Because we don't take them off during pregame because we have a field version of the alma mater, and then we have a stands version that's like longer, and I don't want to say fancier, but it's like fancier, the extra version.
It's got an extra little zhuzh on top.
It does. It has some flair. It has some spice. So we take it off when we're in the stands. But
yeah, if you look at like our drum major uniform and like Penn State's drum major uniform, they're like pretty much identical because our drum major uniforms have never changed. So I don't know. We're sampling from there. But I think it's funny hearing you guys talk about feather plumes because like we can't have feather plumes because those will just be destroyed immediately because it rains just so much and like I don't know. I can't imagine. But we have like so we have our baseball hats and our Shakos. Well, I guess you'd call them hats. I don't know what's going on with that. But our Shakos. And usually what will happen, so it's either so all on, so that's like all the entire uniform's on with gloves and hats and with Shakos. And then if we have just our baseball hats on in the stands, that means no gloves. So the gloves are on the shoulder. And so usually I'm like marching pregame and halftime. I have my baseball hat in my Shako. So that's funny. And it helped me my freshman year because I had a Shako that was too big. And if you guys could have been there, I swear, when we were at Disneyland doing a pep rally for the Rose Bowl and my Shako was too big and we're doing choreo where I'm like flying all over the place. The Shako's just like right here and I'm just like looking around. But yeah, so like usually it's like gloves and Shako on or just the baseball hat. And then we do something called the hat chant before every punt and kickoff. So usually it's like mush, 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 Huskies, mush. And we're like chanting that with our hats. And then it goes right back on. So yeah, sometimes I'm really bad at forgetting to put my gloves on and take my gloves off just because, I don't know.
That's an interesting rule. I've never heard of that before.
I'm still using the gloves I bought my freshman year of college. Like
They're not that
every game day. I just always throw them in and wash. My problem is I also have like child-sized hands, so like I literally have to buy a pair and shrink them in the wash. Although actually, funny story, one of my pairs of gloves is like my backup pair. In case something happens to my good ones. My freshman year, I accidentally washed my white gloves with a cherry chapstick in the pocket of my uniform shorts. So they have some pink spots on them.
Yeah, see, our gloves have to be pristine, like pristine white gloves, or else you get a gig for that game day because of it. So
yeah,
that's
there's also something very special about like opening a clean pack of gloves like the morning of a game. It's like it's like you get like a new pack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. It's the same feeling.
Yeah, so for M2, so like our practice, because so like woodwinds, you don't have to wear practice gloves. It was like for the clarinets and the piccolos. I'm not sure about the saxes, but like the rehearsal gloves are white, and then our game day gloves are black, which is nice because then it's like not bad if they get dirty. But we get one free pair at the beginning of each season. I don't think anyone ever buys another one. I mean, maybe I guess you could, but I don't think anyone ever needs to.
Over my 3 years, over 2 years, because we didn't have
for those that have traveled, so for you guys, which I'm sure that you've been able to travel a lot, go to different places, talk about, can you just kind of describe what's, what goes on when you guys travel, favorite experiences, favorite places that you've been, traditions that you guys have in the band. So anyone can kind of take the floor to start.
Something we did when we traveled my freshman year, we traveled to Iowa State. My sophomore year, we traveled to Iowa. We haven't gotten to do away games since then. Last year is because I don't think they wanted to pay for the bands to travel. So I don't think we necessarily get to travel anymore. But honestly, the away games were both really fun. Iowa State, my freshman year, that was like my first performance just because of how early the game was in the season. So we go from like practicing in the dome or whatever, and then I think Jack Trice was sold out. So it was like 60 or 80,000 people, which was like really fun, but kind of scary as a freshman, just because you're like, this is not my home stadium. A lot of these fans are not my own. But the Iowa State fans are always really nice, and they like hype the bands up because it's an in-state game. I did not have a great experience at Kinnick just because it was, I think, like 113 degrees when we were practicing on the turf in there. Yeah, it was very toasty. Especially since, like, once again, we were practicing in the dome, so we weren't as used to being out in the heat anyway. But it was really fun to get to participate in the wave at Kinnick, which is, for those of you that don't know, I think it's the most wholesome tradition in college football. Where you get to like turn around and the Stead Family Children's Hospital is right behind the field, and the kids can see the field from the hospital. So at the end of, I think it's the first quarter, we get to turn around and we all wave to the kids and the kids wave back. And we got to do a really cool like co-show where we were on the field with the Hawkeye marching band, and we made like the state of Iowa and said like Iowa for the kids. The Hawkeye marching band spelled that out. And it was just really lovely, and that's honestly been one of my favorite marching band memories, just because it was a cool, like, in that moment, like, we weren't, like, Iowa and you and I, like, opposing each other, like, we were united just, like, as Iowans, and, like, it was really cool to, like, be part of something like that that's, like, bigger than ourselves, or, like, bigger than myself, and just, like, my band. So that was really cool. I know that and the PMB also travels internationally every other year. So my sophomore year, they went to Ireland, but I was doing my Disney college program, so I didn't go on the trip, sadly. And then this year, we were supposed to go to Madrid in like a month, but obviously, we are not going to Spain this year. Yep,
Figuratively.
We're
going to Spain figuratively this year only.
Yes.
Spain without the S.
Spain without the S in the Panther Marching Band. But I know you guys probably have very different travel experiences than me just because you go to like bowl games and stuff. So, Annabelle, Savannah,
Just
Jason.
once.
I think I've probably traveled the most, maybe out of you guys. I've been in a couple states now. I was upset because this year, I was meant to go to the Tennessee football game, and I was excited for that. I was also meant to go to Ireland again, but so my first travel experience was, I think, going to Kentucky for football. That was such an amazing time. We only played one song, and it's a song all of us clarinets hate. But it's okay because it was raining. It rained on us for like 6 straight hours, to the point where like part of our uniform like molded. It was so bad. But it was so much fun because we just like stayed in the stands and like cheered on our team. We were just kind of screaming. But one of the funnest parts about traveling is just like getting to hang out with everyone. Especially, we don't really ever get to see the football team, but we get to hang out with the cheer team a lot. That's really the only time we ever get to like hang out with them. So I don't know if any other bands do this, but anytime Marching Mizzou goes anywhere, we always end up at a mall because we have nothing to do, and they give us per diem money anytime we travel. And we're not really like allowed to go out on the town. We kind of like a really strict band program, and you're not like ever allowed to go out at night or do anything kind of like that. So they just throw us on the bus and then they drop us off at the mall for like 5 hours. And then we just have to figure out what to do at the mall. It can be fun or not. But I mean, shout out to athletics because they bought me a couple outfits at the Kentucky Mall. That was a nice time. Got some cute shoes. Um, and then probably my best trip I've ever been on was whenever I went to Nebraska for volleyball. It was so cool because we were playing against Nebraska in the tournament, and it was actually like Kenny said, it was kind of scary to go into their stadium because I don't know if you guys know, Nebraska's really big about volleyball. And so we walk into their stadium and it's sold out and it's just flooded in red, and like the only Mizzou people there are us. And eventually, like, some people tried to fight with tubas in the back of the band. That's a whole other story. But that night we went with our assistant director, Dr. Zambito, and they went and gave us like a really nice like steak dinner. And it was all like provided for, and we got to hang out with the cheerleaders. Yeah, it was so nice. So typically, like the band, we had to stay like 34 minutes away from the stadium just because it's cheaper on like hotels. But that night we got to stay downtown. So we just like walked right across the street. I think it was probably because it was on volleyball. We had less per diem since it came out of the volleyball budget, not the football budget. But after that, our director was like, yeah, you guys can go. We tried to get into a bar just to do karaoke, but they wouldn't let us in because we all weren't 21. So we ended up in this coffee shop just playing cards for like 4 hours. And it was so much fun because I was a little sophomore, and so I didn't really know anyone else out of the section. Those were one of my best memories.
I feel like that sometimes with travel games, isn't that one of like the most fun things where it's like you're literally just like hanging out playing cards or just like something small like that, but you're like with your band gang and you're like doing fun stuff. I know like for basketball, that's been some of my favorite memories, so I love
Yeah,
that
I
too.
know some of my friends.
Basketball's lit.
Yeah, some of my friends last year, they went to the women's tournament and they ended up just playing like Xbox games with the women's team for a couple hours before the
that's pretty
game
cool.
in the lobby. We were meant to go to Ireland last March. Actually, here's my hoodie from it.
Sad.
And then we were meant to go this year, but that's also being canceled.
Oh, that's cute.
It was a $3,000 hoodie. It's okay though,
Yup.
because that's like what the trip cost.
Yep, we started paying for Madrid this year, and then Mertz is like, if we're gonna cancel it, we're canceling it early so you get refunds. And then it did get canceled, but then we all got those fat refund checks in the middle of quarantine, so then we all just bought like Nintendo Switches and stuff.
Curious to hear what's going on with Jason and Savannah, because you all have been to a couple, and one of you has been to a Rose Bowl. I'm not going to say who, but
Hey, we've been to
why
a
not,
Rose Bowl
Jason?
against Washington.
In 2000,
sure.
and you lost.
But we went. That's all that matters. But okay,
Hey,
I'm
Drew
gonna highlight
Brees.
3 things. The first one was when we went to MSU my freshman year. We did a performance at one of the local high schools there, and then instead of going to a hotel, a couple of members of the band would go to like some of the families there, and we did a homestay, and that was really cool.
We used to do that.
My family made like a
canceled it the year
really good
before.
breakfast casserole. I can't remember what was in it and how she made it, but it was amazing. Another great memory was when we went to Northwestern. Shout out to the Northwestern Mellophones, who gave us like little snack bags, and they had like a little note that says like "Mellow there, welcome to Evanston." It was really cute.
No.
We loved it. It was awesome.
Chicago's Big Ten team.
It was so much fun. It was
I'll
a
let
good
you
game,
know.
and we won. Not this year, but we won that year. And then when we went to the Music City Bowl, you don't have to talk about the game. The game actually never happened. It got canceled. But
Oh, wait, you talking about the 63-14 game?
no, that game never
No.
happened. I don't know what you guys
Oh,
are talking
okay,
about.
okay.
But anyway, we went to the Music City Bowl, and it was really fun being in Nashville. And we actually got to hang out. Somehow we got in contact with the Auburn Mellophones, and then we all met at like one of the restaurants there, and we all just kind of hung out and vibed. And it was super cool to meet like a whole other section from another band. That was something that like, whoa, that was weird because I was like, these guys are from the South, and it was like, it wasn't like weird. It was just like, you guys are like not from our area, and even though we had people from Texas, it was just kind of like it was just a weird moment. It's hard to explain. I think that's all that's all I had to get through. I'm sure I'm gonna remember something that I was supposed to talk about, but Savannah, go ahead. Talk about your many Rose Bowl experiences and your fun bowl
And
games and your
Disneyland.
Disneyland and your winning seasons. Okay.
Okay, so I've been to an away game at Oregon State at Research Stadium.
Go
I've
Bees.
been to the Rose Bowl. I've been to the Pac-12 championships in Santa Clara at Levi's Stadium. And I've been to the Las Vegas Bowl at UNLV this past year. So obviously, we
Yeah, we get it. It's cool.
you asked me to talk about it, and I will talk about it if I'm prompted. So, um, so yeah, it was kind of crazy. It was actually 2 years ago today. We won the Pac-12 championships, and everything had to fall into place for us to go to the Rose Bowl. Every other team had to lose a specific game, and we had to win a specific game, and it just worked out that way, and it was just incredibly exciting. Got to go to like Disneyland and perform in Disneyland. Got to meet a couple people in the Ohio State band very shortly. But Vegas was also really cool because I'd never been, and we stayed in the Mandalay Bay Hotel, and it was really weird because I know a lot of people had told me like you lose track of time when you're in Vegas, and that's totally true because I could not keep track of what time it was, because when it got dark, it was like the city is literally so bright. The screens are so bright that you forget how late it is. And, it was interesting. I really did enjoy that game because it was the first bowl game that UW had won for a while. But yeah, I'm really hoping for a Rose Bowl round 2, hopefully. Maybe my senior year. Fingers crossed for that one.
I would love to go to a bowl game my senior year.
Yeah.
That would be lovely.
Well, I think I have everybody beat because I got to go to Kinnick when it was 113 degrees and I got harassed by a drunk guy. So
well,
clearly,
I have a rebuttal. I have a rebuttal. When we went to Michigan
You didn't go to the worst stadium in football.
They made us stand. I've told you guys this, but they made us stand all on like around. Anyone who's been to Michigan State as a band member will know this. But they make you stand like on the field, but off like to the side next to a wall, and like at about the third or fourth quarter, I got back. And, like, obviously all the upperclassmen are in front because they want to watch the game. And as a freshman, you just get pushed to the back. So I was in the back of the clump. And I was pointing straight down into the ground playing because I had no room to lift up my arms to play. So I was playing into the ground. And it was also, like, raining. So it was just a bad experience. But we also lost the game. So it was a double bad experience. But it was fun.
I will say, if any of your bands come to UW, we always give the other band, like, really good seats.
But yeah, the drunk guy, it was actually, the funny thing about the drunk guys, because this kind of ties into my talking about my cowboy hat earlier, is we were marching off the field after junior halftime. I was at the front of a row, so I couldn't, like, stop or back up or anything. And this guy's, like, leaning over the barrier, because if you've been to Kinnick, you can see that they have, like, the seating goes all the way down to the floor, as opposed to, like, stopping, like, above. And he like leans forward and he's like trying to grab my hat off my head, and I was like, he was like, give me your hat, I want your hat. And I was like, no, absolutely not. And then everybody was coming behind me, like pushing me towards him, and that like the FDK thing, that was so wholesome at Kinnick, but then the rest of my experience at Kinnick was,
I know some clarinet players who put like who have had somebody else put their mouth on their mouthpiece before, that were drunk. They were at like a tradition event, and we were standing in the front row, and then the guy just went and then like put his mouth on his mouthpiece, and then the guy, he had to like run through our columns and then play right after.
I would refuse. I would be like, sorry, I'd sacrifice a lot of things for a band, but that is where I draw the line.
So quickly, two things about the two in terms of football. Rutgers was a terrible experience. I'm sorry, Craig. And then Maryland lost to Rutgers, which was just a terrible experience. On the other hand, beating Texas at FedEx Field, which is the worst stadium, one of the worst stadiums ever built, definitely the worst stadium in football, probably the home of the Washington football team. Oh God, that play! There was like a monsoon that happened. It like apparently like the rain was so like the press box was getting over flooded. Like the tiling above it was starting to like start to sink down. We were in like this ramp area that was like kind of on the outside of the stadium, and there was like a river that started flowing of water because it was so poorly built that like it just can't contain the elements. It was one of the worst things I've ever experienced. But we beat Texas, and it was great. And I got to see a bunch of Texas fans just go home sad, knowing that they scheduled Maryland 2 years in a row and lost to them both times.
You know, I think kind of on that note, obviously, like, traveling in the band, like, there's some very glamorous, fun moments, but there are also some not as fun moments. But I think we can all agree that, like, the adventures are always worth it.
Traveling's still a heck of a lot of fun.
There's always some good stuff in there. So that kind of wraps up our episode for this week. So thank you everybody for joining us. You can follow us on Instagram at College Band Radio. You can follow us on Twitter at College Band RDO and on YouTube at College Band Radio. So until next week, stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask, and we'll talk to you guys soon.